How you doing, guys? Tomato Sauce in here, and I'm coming at you live with another Wrath of the Lich King. This time, Wrath of the Lich King Kebab Warrior video. So I started playing Kebab in pre-patch tonight. Threw some old gear on, jumped into a Pug Black Temple raid. Had to respec out of my Revenge spec, like protection hybrid, and I threw together a quick Kebab spec. Just want to go over the talents. It was a blast to play, so I wanted to come back and, apologize for my absence and get you guys some quality kebab content. So let's go through where I threw my talent points. First, we'll just jump into the Fury tree. I'm going to let you know I threw 8 points here, 3 in armor to the teeth, 5 in cruelty, because number one, armor to the teeth is huge. We use plate, so we're getting massive attack power out of this, and cruelty is crit, and crit is king for arms warrior in pre-patch and going into the Wrath of the Lich King, and you're going to see why as we go through these talents. So first we go into improved heroic strike, and then we're throwing points in improved rend. This is going to increase the bleed damage done by your rend by 20%, and we use rend a lot now. Rend is actually massive for us. Then we're going to throw in some points into improved charge and tactical mastery. Improved charge is going to give you more rage on all your openers. Tactical mastery is going to allow you to retain more of that rage when you swap stances. You don't swap stances often, but when you do, it comes up in AoE rotations. Tactical mastery is very, very nice for that. Then you're going to throw 2 points into improved overpower because we're finally able to use overpower in a player versus environment setting. Really, it's just in use a lot more than it ever has been in PvE and PvP. So you want this 50% crit chance, increased critical chance, because it's massive. It ties together with your trauma, which is going to allow you to do more bleed damage. And it's just nice because you're getting guaranteed overpowers as a standard part of your rotation now, which we've never had up to this point between Classic and TBC Classic. So thank you very much, Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch. Then we go into Impale and Deep Wounds. These are always lock-ins for any PvE or PvP DPS arms warrior. It's just more bleed damage, and that's going to tie into trauma, which comes in later on in the tree, which ties into your crits, which, you're starting to see the picture come together. Now let's get into Taste for Blood. This is why Rend is so important. Rend is our #1 priority ability because when you have Rend on the target, when you have Rend on the target, you're going to proc overpowers, right? They're going to be guaranteed to happen. So every 6 seconds, you're going to see overpowers. That button's just going to light up, and you're going to be able to start jamming that button, giving you big overpower crits, big damage, and keeping trauma up. Now, here's where we get a little bit interesting. Because we're going Kebab, we skip our two-handed weapon specialization, and we go right into Polak specialization. So we're going to get more critical strike and critical strike damage, which is huge because we're going to be critting a lot. Then we go into sweeping strikes, which, this is a staple of the Arms Warrior. Now it's in the Arms Warrior tree. Hey, so big AoE DPS coming from sweeping strikes. Then you're going to go into sword specialization, or at least I went into sword specialization because I had an old sword lying around. So I wanted sword to get more rage, and I think that's the right move. It's just a ton of rage when you're playing Kebab right now. You're always critting with the axe in the main hand, and you're doing big damage there, and that's tying into all the extra rage you're going to get from Endless Rage. And then you have sword spec procking, and that also helps proc on your main hand too. I went 2 points in weapon mastery just because I love weapon mastery, because I like to queue battlegrounds and this goofy stuff too, and a little bit of arena. But you really could go 0 in weapon mastery and 4 points in sword specialization if you have some better gear, and then you're going to get more sword procs, right? So there's an ICD now, but 6 seconds goes by really fast. So this is procking every 6 seconds guaranteed. Good times had by all. Then this all ties into trauma. Your melee critical strikes increase the effectiveness of bleeds on the target. So your rend, which is already doing 20% more damage, is now doing 30% more damage. And your deep wounds, which is big, big damage based on your crits, right? Your critical strikes are causing the opponent to bleed, dealing 48% of your melee weapons average damage over 6 seconds. So you're going to have big, deep wounds rolling on your targets at all times because you're always critting. You have two weapons going 1,000 miles an hour. You're keeping that trauma buff up. Now we go into Mortal Strike and Strength of Arms. This is just a great talent. Obviously, we skip Slam because that's why we play Kebab. We don't want to slam. We don't want to. That's why it's Shift D. I gotta go way out of my way to press that button. I ain't pressing it. Then from there, I went Juggernaut because I love the ability to use charge in combat. But more than that, like while a fight's happening, if you do have to use charge, your next Mortal Strike has an additional 25% chance to crit. That's massive. That's more crit. That's keeping trauma up. That's getting deep wounds going. You see what I'm saying? You're just a crit machine. That's what you want to be. I went Improved Mortal Strike. That's 10% more Mortal Strike damage. Maybe that's debatable right now, and you could throw these 3 points in Improved Sword Spec, or excuse me, in Sword Spec. I just went for the 10% more MS, and you have it up more, and that really ties into your Kebab prioritization anyway, because you are Mortal Striking a lot, right, on cooldown. Then Unrelenting Assault is massive, right? So this is going to reduce the cooldown of your overpower ability by 4 seconds, and it increases the damage done by it by 20%. This is absolutely massive because now your overpower is doing 20% more damage. The cooldown is also lowered on it, and you have 50% crit on that overpower. So you really have a lot working for you for overpower as an arms warrior in Wrath of the Lich King, and obviously Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch. Then Sudden Death. This is Kebab's bread and butter. So if you remember in our early Kebab videos, I always said Kebab's going to scale with haste. It's going to be incredible when glaives come out, and I was right. And you know, if you can get a DST, get a DST. Well, in Wrath, we're gonna have 2 DSTs as a glove enchant on a 1-minute cooldown on use. So there's going to be haste out of the yin yang in Wrath as well, right? So Sudden Death, your melee hits have a 9% chance of allowing the use of Execute regardless of your target's health state. Why is this amazing, right? Because you have way more melee hits playing with Kebab than you do with a two-hander. So you have more chances to proc Sudden Death, and it was absolutely insane how often I had Sudden Death procs going in this Black Temple tonight. Actually, the leader of the raid messaged me and he said, I didn't think you were going to do any damage, but it's kind of crazy. You're top 3 to 5 in every boss. And these, you know, they were running gear checks, and, you know, I was one of the more under-geared players there. I'll go through my gear in a little bit. But you know, the guy wasn't like letting boosts come into the raid, and it wasn't a GDKP, so he wanted people to really make the raid flow. I was pumping. But yeah, Sudden Death and Kebab go together like peas and carrots, cocaine and waffles. You know, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Yeah, you do. You're gonna get executes, a lot of them. Then Endless Rage. You generate 25% more rage from damage dealt. Well, guess what? You're always dealing damage, and you're always dealing a lot of it, and it's always critting. Your rage bar is so full. You're going to be getting tired of pressing Heroic Strike as a Kebab warrior, because that's how often you're ready to Heroic Strike. We'll get into the rotation prioritization next. Blood Frenzy. Boom. Melee attack speed. Boom. That ties into Sudden Death. Boom. That ties into Trauma. Boom. That ties into the whole freaking tree. It's just such a good product. This is such a good product. Arms Warrior, Kebab, or two-hand, for me, Kebab, is beautiful in Wrath of the Lich King. They really did such a good job of it. Everything just ties, it ties the room together, right? The rug, it ties the room together. Big Lebowski. This is the rug, baby. This is the fucking rug. Arms Warrior. Then we go into Wrecking Crew. And here's again. Oh my God! Every talent feels like it's the one that ties the room together until you read the next talent and why it's so good. Your melee critical hits enrage you, so you're always critting. You have massive crit. I'm at 41%. My gear isn't even good. And I'm always swinging. We're always swinging because we're kebab warriors. It's crazy. So you have a 100% uptime on Wrecking Crew, guaranteed. Matter of fact, or your money back. mypillow.com. Boom. Wrecking Crew is absolutely ridiculous. And then Bladestorm is just like the piece de resistance, right? It's super, super fun. The most fun button to press in the game. And we'll get into that as we walk into rotations. So, without further ado, let's go into what I kind of dubbed the rotation tonight. Um, this is what was working for me. I haven't simmed any of this stuff, but here's what I got, right? So for single target, I'm charging in, I'm putting up rend. That's tying into, your taste for blood, your trauma, your improved rend, all that good stuff. Mortal Strike, boom, immediately you start that cooldown going on Mortal Strike. Now, anytime you're a 40 plus rage, feel free to queue up Heroic Strike. That's going to be a lot. I put it early in the rotation because it's going to happen early. Um, then you're going to get an overpower proc, right, within 6 seconds, and you're going to get an execute proc super fast because you're going to get it quick. Trust me. Um, then from there, I'm going to use both of those two. I'm going to use my blood rage and my on use macro. You can actually put this guy over here right after your first mortal strike. So you're going to go Blood Rage on use, hit your first overpower, hit your execute. My on use is using my Berserker's Call, so, that's a lot of extra attack power, so I want to get my first overpower, my first execute with that buffed attack power. Then I'm going to Sweeping Strikes, and then I'm going to Bladestorm. Um, and that's my opener, right? So from there, uh, my single target prioritization, I always keep rend up. I use overpower as soon as it comes up. I prioritize that over anything. Um, then I execute is my third prioritization. This is up so often you are just pressing execute like crazy. Now, mind you, while you're doing those first three things, you're also queuing heroic strike like a madman. We're going to get to that down here. But just because it's lower on the prioritization, you're actually like, the keyboard player when you're when you're doing this. You're pressing a ton of buttons. It's a lot of fun. Don't be afraid to miss a heroic strike every now and then. Unless you're going for like the best logs in the world. But you have the ability to heroic strike a ton in this spec. Um, then obviously sweeping strikes and bladestorm. I always do those together. Even single target, just more bladestorm hits. And then mortal strike is last on the list of cooldown based or non-proc based prioritization. And then heroic strike, you just keep that bad boy going. Now for an AoE opener, what I do is I charge into the target, I rend it, I use my blood rage, use 13 macro. Then I'm popping my sweeping strikes. I'm popping my blade storm. When I come out of my blade storm, I still have sweeping strikes up. I'm going to overpower. I'm going to execute. And then I'm going to maintain cleave while all that's going on, right? So, you're going to be cleaving as your heroic strike filler in AoE. Now, when sweeping strikes falls down, here's where tactical mastery comes into play. What you're going to do is I always rend on the main target so that I get overpower procs as I'm going. So in case there's like what is that? Like a prioritization target, you can overpower and execute into the single target guy while cleaving and running all of your other AoE abilities. Now, whirlwind at 2+ enemies if sweeping strikes is down. So you weave that in at 2+ enemies if sweeping strikes is down. I started doing that tonight in Black Temple, and it felt good. And it felt like Tactical Mastery had a purpose. It wasn't just like wasted filler talent points. So I think Whirlwind at 2+ enemies is a nice filler, but only if Sweeping Strikes is down. That's when I would do it. So again, I'll add this stuff to the description of the video. Um, and now let's get into, some actual results, right, from people that are playing the spec now. You can see our boy from China. He's actually running Brutal Gladiator's Cleaver and the Brutal Gladiator's Bone Cracker. So he's not going the sword spec variant. He's taking those sword spec talent points and throwing them in the armor penetration, right? Mace specialization, which I think is a very good way to play. I went sword spec because I'm running low gear. And I wanted to make sure my rage bar was going to be filled tonight. I didn't want to go in and kind of make an ass of myself. And I didn't, luckily. So very cool. Um, then you have our boy Maximum Zug. I've featured his logs on the channel before, but if you take a look at the way that he's playing Kebab right now in Sunwell, you'll see he's rocking Warglaives with Azeroth, so he's doing a full sword spec variant, and it's just great to see it, right? These are two of the top 10 overall DPS warriors in Sunwell right now, and they're running Kebab. There's others that are running two hand. I'm not going to say Kebab's better than two hand's better than Kebab. Play the style that you like to play. For me, I always come back to Kebab because it's so much fun, and you have such a high paced play style that I find you really don't have with a two hander. Um, but yeah, I mean, listen, people in the top 10 are still playing Kebab. I've heard that Kebab was like extraordinary in Sunwell and Black Temple. So I'm glad for the guys that stuck it out, after SSC and TK, where I was really pumping. You guys kept the spec alive and kept it rolling. I'm here to bring it back into Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch like a wrecking ball. And you guys are helping me do that 100%. These are just some guys. I just wanted to show you guys some of the top warriors that are still rocking Kebab today. And then I want to go over what I think the Kebab warrior will look like in season 1 of Wrath of the Lich King. So I threw down a level 80 talent calculator here. I went, you'll see, there's by getting more points, you're actually seeing us move more points in the protection tree. Everything is the same in the arms tree, except I add 2 points into sword specialization. And obviously, I keep improved Mortal Strike because in Wrath, you get that 10% MS glyph as your third glyph. Um, and that's massive. Now, on my level 70 glyphs, what I'm using right now is Glyph of Execution. The heck am I using? I don't even remember. What did I throw on tonight? Oh, Glyph of Rending. Yeah. No brain dead here. Um, keeps your rend up longer on the target, less GCDs on rend maintenance, and anytime rend lasts longer, that just means it does more damage, and that ties into trauma and, all that good bleed damage that you have going on. So I'm rocking Execution as Kebab because I have so many sudden death procs that, I want to use Execution right off rip, and then when I hit level 80, I'll move over to Glyph of Mortal Strike as well, because it just ties in with the spec. You're Mortal Striking a lot, and Mortal Strike does good damage, so you're gonna run with it. Back over here, what you're gonna get when you hit 80, though, besides these 2 extra points in sword specialization, if you decide to say sword, or 4 points in mace specialization if you decide to go mace offhands, um, is you are going to get improved blood rage. So all your openers are you're going to have more rage. You're going to hit that rage bar fuller faster, which is kind of insane because it is pretty much full the entire fight while you're heroic striking every GCD. You're going to get improved thunderclap, which is more thunderclap damage and the slowing effects an additional 10%. That's nice, nothing wrong with it. And then Incite. This is why you go prot, because you're going to get 15% more cleave, or excuse me, more critical strike chance on heroic strike, thunderclap, and cleave. You're always using heroic strike. You're always using cleave as the situation dictates for either one. But either way, those two abilities are in use so much with Kebab because you have so much rage, and you can always fill those globals, with one of those two abilities. They're going to crit more. You're going to keep trauma up. You're going to keep your deep wounds rolling. Just all the good things that happen from Arms Warriors critting. So Insight is going to tie in very, very nicely. Again, another talent that ties the room together. So I think we have a really, really good future ahead of us for Kebab. Our present right now in Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch is absolutely awesome for Kebab. You know, we have a very bright future here. Um, so enjoy Kebab. Try it out in the pre-patch if you haven't yet. It's an absolute blast. It's fun in PvP. It's fun in PvE. It's just a good time overall. So enjoy yourselves, Kebab Warriors. Um, that's it. Now, as far as the future of the channel, I'll also be doing some videos on Protection Warriors because I played a lot of Prot Warriors so far in this pre-patch in both PvP and PvE, and I've had a blast. I've actually even been working some threes comps with Prot, you know, doing arena queues here and there. You don't get anything for them, unfortunately, in the pre-patch, but they're still really fun to do because you're going up against really good players most of the time that are really well geared. So you get to test things against people that are also testing things, or they're just testing old reliables, right? Like RMP. And it's fun to beat those playing Prot TSG or, you know, African Turtle Cleave. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there for Protection Warriors in Wrath of the Lich King. Kebab Warriors, you guys are going to have a great place as a DPS warrior. You know, the future looks good for Warriors in Wrath. So at the end of the day, thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I want to hit that 1,000 subscriber count. That was a goal of mine in TVC. I fell short because I disappeared. Just had a lot of things going on in life. Had my third son, lost 40 pounds. You know, all good things, right? But yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Play Kebab Warrior, tomato sauce, and out. Have a great one, guys.